I'm formulating a question, and I'm going to ramble for a second, and I think it'll end up with a question. Um, I think I think part of my tension, part of my struggle has always been when looking at something like something like cryptocurrency, where there's so many different layers and so much of it can at times seem overwhelming or intentionally obfuscated or made complex in order to hide things, like trying to figure out the line between um, like just straight news and trying to just report straight what's happening, and like the need for fact checking on that, and then like the role of commentary as it relates to like journalism in the cryptocurrency space. And I think that CoinDesk has actually done a good job of hiring on columnists who are able to do some of that more kind of commentary stuff and less of like kind of the straight news stuff to get at some of the issues, which they're able to do because they're enabled by more direct news reporting and things like that. Often, though, at other news outlets and places, my struggle with the opinion sections, or often with the columnists, is that at a certain point they end up creating commentary that is disconnected from the reality of the facts that are being reported and things like that. Do you have any thoughts on kind of the interplay between straight news reporting, like the need to do diligence on like every piece of information that you end up getting, because Binance could be lying to you about the Indian exchange they supposedly bought, and like the role of commentary more broadly in like the industry and how those interplay at like a media organization that's doing like different levels of all three of those.
So I will say I don't think that's necessarily a crypto media
No, it's not.
problem. I think every news organization I've seen, yeah, it has the same issue, right? And I think it would be nice if every media outlet, whether that's crypto or legacy, was able to say, okay, well, we have an opinion section, but we also have a dedicated fact checker for this opinion section. I don't know what it would take to make that happen. I do agree that that is certainly a problem, and that is something I would love to see more of. But opinion sections are generally their kind of own siloed thing. They have their own dedicated editors. They have their own process, and a lot of times they don't even talk to the newsroom. And I'm not saying that's what happens at CoinDesk. It's just something I've seen at quite a few different outlets, and I don't know what the kind of industry solution to that would be, besides just finding ways of incentivizing fact checkers. Whether that is pushing back whenever one of those columns is published and it has clearly not been fact checked, or whether that is, for example, threatening to cancel your subscription, or say, okay, well, you were getting money from me in this fashion, XYZ way, and you will no longer be doing that because of these specific reasons. But I'm also still not sure how effective that really is in this day and age, because a lot of times people don't necessarily subscribe because of opinion views. They subscribe because of the news or because of whatever they're looking at. It is a challenge, and I wish I had a better answer, but it is something I've definitely seen.
And part of the reason I ask about this is because I think there is value in good commentary and good opinion writing. And obviously, I think that I have a podcast and a newsletter. I mean, come on. But like speaking to Coinbase, David Z. Morris is an excellent writer who, because he's in kind of this columnist role and not like a straight journalist or reporter role, he's able to kind of speak directly about certain things. And in that, I mean, make statements that are that have a little bit more of a value judgment added to them that reporters and editors cannot. And I think that done well can have value for the people reading it, and but that done poorly has a lot of consequences for the people reading it. And so I've always struggled, in my conception of journalism, to figure out how that should be done. And this is, again, not really a question. It's just one of those things that's always rattling around in my head, because when it's done well, it allows the writer to speak plainly about these things to the reader, while still being supported by the evidence, which I think is a very valuable thing that is harder to do in the journalist role, because it is so important that you're reporting the news just accurately and straightforward. And so it's just always a tension in my mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I write a newsletter every week, which is no, I absolutely agree though. Like, I like I said, I write a newsletter, and that's kind of a blend between fact-based reporting, and sometimes it's just kind of my opinion or an observation that is not necessarily like the factualized the same way that an actual
Yeah.
report would be. So yeah, I agree. Good opinion, good columnists are worth their weight in gold, and then the bad ones kind of
Yeah.
ruin it for
And,
everyone
and like the
else.
reason I love that format is because that's where you can say something like, I don't think this bill is likely to pass. I think that it is more likely to do this kind of thing, to kind of tie it back into what we were talking before, is when you're in that kind of role. You can make those kind of value judgments done well. It's bringing value. And so I think there's value in it, but like the challenge, as we keep coming back to, is doing it well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a fun challenge, but like it's also like, oh well, I'm looking at this opinion piece, and I'm not sure I agree with like any of these base
Yeah.
assumptions because they're assumptions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the best example I have of a commentator who does a fantastic job is Matt Levine for Bloomberg.
Obviously.
He seems to have his pulse on the ability. Like he's walking that fine line of commentary, opinion, but also like fact based. And yeah, it is difficult. Bloomberg obviously got one of the best in the business with Matt.